Lesson 43, Simplifying Rational Expressions. First off, let's review what a rational expression is. A rational expression is just an expression where you have variables both in the numerator and the denominator. So in the picture here, you can see we have some rational equations here, or rational expressions, and we need to simplify it. The one thing that you need to remember is that the denominator of a rational expression can never equal 0. So when we solve for this, we have to make sure in our answer, if there's a variable in our denominator, we need to make sure we state what that variable cannot equal for the whole thing, the whole expression, to be undefined, which means the denominator equals 0. If we look at the first example here, x plus 8 divided by 4x, we just want to know what is going to make this undefined. And so we just look at our denominator, we make it equal to 0, and we solve for the variable. So you have 4x in the denominator, 4x equals 0. Solve for x by dividing by 4 on both sides. When x is 0, the whole expression is undefined. So let's take a look at this example. We only want to find out what does x have to be for this whole expression to be equal to 0. So I only look at the denominator. So I take my denominator, 3x plus 21, make it equal to 0, and then we use our two-step process to solve for a variable. So I subtract 21 on both sides, and I get 3x equaling negative 21. Divide by 3 on both sides, and when x equals a negative 7, this is undefined. So x can never equal negative 7, because then we would not be able to solve it. Next one, determine some more expressions. Find out what does the variable need to equal for it to be undefined. So I take my denominator, x minus 4, set it equal to 0, and then we solve. So add 4 to both sides. So this expression is undefined when x is a positive 4. And I could just check it, put 4 in for x. 4 minus 4 is 0. That expression would be undefined. The last one here, we got 3x equaling 0. Divide by 3 on both sides. When x is 3, actually when x is 0, when x is 0, the whole expression is undefined. A couple other ones here, we got 5x minus 15 equals 0. Add 15 on both sides. You get 5x equaling 15. Divide by 5 on both sides. So when x equals 3, the whole expression is undefined. And this last one here, x minus 1 equals 0. Add 1 to both sides. When x equals a positive 1, the whole expression is undefined. A couple other ones here. I'm not going to go through those, but just talk you through it. Anytime you have a number or a coefficient and a variable in here, the variable cannot equal 0, because anything times 0 is going to be 0. So anytime you see like a number times a variable, it's going to be undefined when the variable is 0. This one right here, it's just the inverse, so it's the opposite. The opposite of a positive 8 would be a negative 8. And the other one, you can figure out both of these. This has to equal 42, and this is minus 42, so x would have to equal a positive 7. But now let's look at simplifying using a common factor. So we're going to have to do more to factorize to simplify it. But then we also still need to find out what does the variable have to equal for it to be undefined. The first one is done for you. Let's look at the second one here. We got 2x squared minus 10x over 4x squared plus 6x. I know in the numerator I can take a 2x out of both terms. That's the biggest number and variable I can take out. When I do that, 2x squared divided by 2x is just x. And remember, when we divide like bases, you subtract the exponents, so 2 minus 1 is 1. And then 10x divided by 2x is just 5. So I factored out the numerator. The denominator, the common factor of 4 and 6 is 2. I can take an x out of both of them. And what I have left is 4 divided by 2 is 2. X squared divided by x is just x. Plus 6x divided by 2x would be 3. And then I check to see if there's anything that's in common with the numerator and the denominator. This 2x divided by 2x is just 1. So I end up with an answer of x minus 5 divided by 2x plus 3. Now I want to find out, what does the x have to be for the whole thing to be undefined? And for this one, since everything with the variable and the numbers are multiplying, for that to equal 0, the only way this is going to equal 0 is if x is 0. Because if I put a 0 in for here, when I square the 0, that's still 0. 6 times 0 is 0. 0 plus 0 is 0. So we would have to put down that x cannot equal 0. It can be any other number, but it just can't be 0. So our answer would be all of this. Other examples, 2x squared minus 14x divided by 4x minus 28. So I need to factor in the denominator. The greatest common factor is 2x. That leaves me with x minus 7. And all I'm doing is just dividing the common factor from both terms in my problem. So 2x squared divided by 2x is just x. 14x divided by 2x is 7. And then the denominator, I can divide the 4 out. That leaves me with x, because 4x divided by 4 is x, minus 28 divided by 4 is 7. And I look to see what's in common with the numerator and denominator. X minus 7s are in common. And then I can divide a 2 here, divide a 2 here. So I'm left with x over 2. And then I got to figure out what x cannot equal. So 4x minus 28 equals 0. Add 28 to both sides. 4x equals 28 divided by 4. X cannot equal 7. Because if it equals 7, the denominator is always equal to 0. On the bottom one here, I can take a 9 out. 27x divided by 9 is 3x. 9 divided by 9 is 1. Bottom, I just have x minus 10. I cannot simplify that any further. So that would be my answer. And then I have to look, x just cannot equal a positive 10. So all of this would be our answer. A couple other examples here. 8x squared minus 4x. Great common factor is 4x. 8x squared divided by 4x is just 2x. Minus 4x divided by 4x is just 1. Denominator, I can divide a 4x out of both of those. 12x squared divided by 4x is a 3x. 8x divided by 4x is 2. I look at what's in common in numerator and denominator. 4x divided by 4x is just 1. So I'm left with 2x minus 1 over 3x plus 2. Again, I have a variable here and a variable here. That's a clue that x can never equal 0, because always it makes the whole denominator equal to 0. Next one, 7x squared minus 21x. Common factor is 7x. 7x squared divided by 7x is just x. 21x divided by 7x is 3. common factor of 15x, or 5x and 15 would just be 5. That leaves me with x plus 3. Looking at what I have in common, there's nothing in common, so that would keep my answer. And then we would have to say x cannot equal, let's see, 5x plus 15 equals 0. Subtract 15 on both sides. 5x equals a negative 15 divided by 5 on both sides. X cannot equal a negative 3. So this would be our answer. A couple other ones. 7x minus 27 divided by 5x. There's nothing in common with the numerator and the denominator. I can't factor anything out. Do not cross off the x's because the 27 does not have an x. So this would be our answer, and then we'd have to say x cannot equal 0. Next one, 3x squared minus 3x divided by 9x squared plus 15x. So in the numerator, I can take a 3x out. That leaves me with x minus 1. Denominator, I can take a 3x out. That leaves me with 3x plus 5. The 3x's divide each other out. So I'm left with x minus 1 divided by 3x plus 5 with x cannot equaling. Since I have my two variables here, multiplying against our coefficients, that gives me a clue that x cannot equal 0. And the last one here, I can divide a 4 out. 4x divided by 4 is just x. 28 divided by 4 is 7. In the denominator, I can take a 3x out. 3x squared divided by 3x is just x. 21x divided by 3x is a positive 7. Common factors in the numerator and denominator is x plus 7. They cancel out. I have an answer of 4 over 3x. Then x cannot equal, again I have my variables here, multiplying by coefficients, x cannot equal 0. And a few other ones. These are ones we just did, so we would just skip that one. And the application, expression 3.5t plus 0.7t squared represents the distance a moving object travels through time, t. The expression 1.4t squared represents the distance the same object moves from rest with twice the acceleration. So what we need to do is simplify this expression. So I have 3.5t plus 0.7t squared divided by 1.4t squared. Now, if you don't want to deal with decimals, we could actually multiply all this by 10. You multiply everything by 10, we can get rid of the decimals and just work with the numbers that we have here. Otherwise, if we don't do that, we can just factor out and just think of it as 35, 7, and 14. So in the top, the common factor of 35 and 7, or 3.5 and 0.7, we can take a 0.7 out, and we can take a t out. And what do we have left? If we think about 3.5 divided by 0.7, we can't divide by a decimal, so we need to multiply by the power of 10. So it's really 35 divided by 7, which will give us 5. And then 0.7 divided by 0.7 would just give us, we're just going to have a t left over because we have a t squared divided by a t. And then the denominator, I can take a 0.7 out, or if you treat this 1.4 as 14, 14 divided by 7, or since we're still using decimals, it would be 0.7. And I can take a t out because I have 2 of those there. That leaves me with t left over in the denominator. So the 0.7 t's cancel out, And so my answer would be 5 plus t over t. And now the t's do not cancel each other out in this example. I forgot, down in the bottom here, we would have a 2t left over because 1.4 divided by 0.7 would give us 2. So our answer would be 5 plus t divided by 2t. And then we have to say the t, that just cannot equal 0. So this would be our answer. Next application. Distance a car has traveled is equal to 8.1t plus 0.9t squared. It took 1.8t squared seconds to travel that far. What is the velocity of the car in simplest form? So we're just going to do the same thing that we did before. This time, let's just multiply everything by a power of 10. And then so we have 81t plus 9t squared divided by 18t squared. Now this might make it a little bit easier for you to find the common factors. I can take a 9t out in the numerator. That leaves me with 9 plus t divided by, I can take a 9t out in the denominator. That leaves me with 2t left over. The 9t's cancel out. You're left with 9 plus t over 2t. And t just cannot equal 0. And let's take a look at one final problem here. We're just going to simplify this expression you see here, 2 pi r h plus 2 pi r squared divided by pi r squared times h. Okay, so we need to factor out the numerator. They both have 2 pi and a radius in both terms, so I can divide that out, and that leaves me with h for the height plus the radius, because the 2 pi and one of the r's we factored out. And then the denominator, I know I have a pi I can take out, I have a radius I can take out. That leaves me with 1 radius times the height. Simplify it, pi r's cancel out. So I'm left with 2 times the height plus the radius divided by the radius times the height. And then we'd have to say the radius and the height cannot equal 0. So that is our lesson on simplifying rational expressions.